Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The direction of European and Polish policy under the PO-PSL government was a triumph of Putinist authoritarianism, as shown in another episode of the documentary series Reset by Sławomir Seskiewicz and Michał Rachon. Polish viewers were presented for the first time with a transcript of a conversation between former Prime Minister Donald Tusk and the then United States President George Bush. The materials presented in the third episode of Reset show that the former Prime Minister Donald Tusk deliberately tried to delay decisions on the missile shield because he knew that in November 2008 a determined Republican administration in Washington would be replaced by Democrats who would not want to fulfill the promises of their predecessors. Russia has missiles aimed at the United States. He has already threatened us, and he knows that if he fires one missile at an ally, we will blow it away. He knows that missile defence is not aimed at Russia. He is simply trying to intimidate you. Meanwhile, the content of the transcript shows that the key influence on Donald Tusk's decisions on the deployment of the missile shield in Poland was a conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin. I'll say one more thing that I won't say publicly. When I was in Russia, I managed to thaw relations. That is what we wanted. However, it cost something. It was not an easy task. And everything was fine until we brought up the subject of missile defence. Do you know what Putin said? He suddenly became very anxious, looked me in the eye and said, "OK, you want missile defence? Fine. But the next day I will direct my missiles with nuclear warheads at targets in Poland."
Moscow
was receiving a very important element of its strategy for the rebuilding of the empire. Without what they got from Tusk, the entire subsequent policy of the Russian Federation would have been impossible. This was a kind of tipping point. It was something that the Russians absolutely did not expect. It was a huge gift from Berlin. Donald Tusk's reset policy was openly opposed by the late President Lech Kaczynski, who in 2008, in Tbilisi, warned European leaders against the Kremlin's imperial policy. A few days after Russia's attack on Georgia, there was an awakening of the Polish authorities. Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski signed an agreement to build a missile shield in Poland.
Można powiedzieć, że były delikatne różnice.
It can be said that there were subtle differences, but I am not a supporter of the thesis that at that time Lech Kaczynski and Donald Tusk presented vastly different concepts.
Koncepcje prezentowali.
President Lech Kaczynski was against Donald Tusk's policy of warming relations with Russia, and this reset because he knew what the risk was. In 2009, the United States withdrew from building a missile shield in Poland. Resistance from the Tusk government prevented the Americans from establishing an intercontinental air defense system. Nevertheless, Washington fulfilled the terms of the agreement and placed Patriot batteries in Poland, which were plugged into the Polish missile defense system. At the time, Poland was in the North Atlantic Alliance, and we should behave towards the United States and towards Russia as the alliance documents say. That is, the alliance and the United States is our primary ally, and Russia is a country from which a threat can come. In 2015, Radosław Sikorski unveiled the backstory of the meeting on the 8th of February 2008 in Moscow. At the time, Donald Tusk was said to have heard a proposal from Vladimir Putin to partition Ukraine. This information was concealed by Tusk during a meeting in Washington with the United States President. Donald Tusk's behaviour toward this wicked proposal is puzzling, to say the least. First of all, he did not react, which in the language of diplomacy and the language of international politics means we shall see. I will think about this problem, but I'm not saying no. And he had a duty as Polish Prime Minister to simply get up and walk out of the meeting. Implementation of the Polish-American project began only in 2016. At the end of this year, the system in Redzikowo will be ready to defend Polish territory against possible attacks from intercontinental ballistic missiles. Had it not been for the astonishing resistance of the Prime Minister at the time, the shield could have been ready as early as 8 years ago. Earlier today, German Defence Minister Boris Pistorius pushed for negotiations on the establishment of a maintenance hub in Poland to repair Leopard tanks damaged in Ukraine, to be completed within the next 10 days. The negotiations are intensive, complex and with complex questions. The two of us just agreed in our talks again that solutions must be found now. I believe that time is of the essence now. Germany is ready to take on responsibility either way, and that's why we believe that the talks should be completed within the next 10 days, if at all possible, so that we know in which direction we are heading. An agreement to extend the deployment of 3 German air defence units to Poland is being held up by fraught separate negotiations on the establishment of a maintenance hub in Poland for the damaged Leopard tanks. German and Polish companies are involved in the negotiations on the maintenance hub, as well as both countries' governments, and the main problems are on the company's side. Pistorius' remark about the need to see in what direction to plan was seen as a veiled threat to choose a location outside Poland for the tank maintenance hub. Błaszczak said he wanted German Patriot systems to remain in the country until at least the end of 2023. But Pistorius, in public statements, did not address Błaszczak's request.
What's been recently happening in Russia, the complete subordination of Belarus, the transfer of nuclear weapons to Belarus, the Wagner Group, all show that the threats from Russia are real. Therefore, following our conversation in Brussels, I stress that we are interested in having a Patriot system to remain in Poland, at least until the end of this year. We appreciate the presence of those Patriot batteries on Polish soil. Poland plays an important role in supporting Ukraine. All the weapon deliveries to Ukraine go through Poland. We are happy that this system has been expanded because we have American Patriots, we have German Patriots, so we have a system that protects deliveries to Ukraine.
Relations between Berlin and the ruling Nationalist Law and Justice Party in Warsaw have been strained, with both sides at odds over a range of topics, from arms deliveries to Kiev to an EU migration deal rejected by Poland. Poland has been on the alert for a possible spillover of the war in neighbouring Ukraine, especially since 2 people were killed in the region last November by what Warsaw concluded was a stray Ukrainian air defence missile. As a result, Berlin offered to deploy 3 of its Patriot units to Poland to help secure its airspace. Today, law enforcement officials from Ukraine, the European Union and the United States opened an international centre to build criminal cases against the Russian leadership for the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian authorities are reviewing more than 93,000 records of war crimes and have filed charges against 207 suspects in domestic courts. High-level perpetrators could be tried at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, which has already sought the arrest of Russian President Vladimir Putin. But because of a gap in international law, there is no court that is able currently to prosecute the crime of aggression for the 24th of February 22 invasion itself. The new International Centre for the Prosecution of the Crime of Aggression, also in The Hague, will work alongside the ICC, the world's permanent war crimes court, and bridge that legal gap.
We decided that we will support our partners which started their own national investigations, and we will centralize already available evidence, analyze that evidence, and also identify possible evidentiary gaps through our experts working here at Eurojust.
Today, we gather here on occasion of a truly historic moment. I would say an epoch-defining moment when the civilized world not only voices, but also shows by concrete actions that accountability is what matters the most.
The new centre will collect evidence for possible cases against Russian military and political leaders responsible for the war. Supported by the European Union, the United States and a joint investigating team from Ukraine, the centre will effectively be the forerunner of a special tribunal for aggression, building a case file that could go to court. The United States will contribute evidence and is sending a special prosecutor, Jessica Kim, to The Hague.
The Justice Department's newly appointed U.S. Special Prosecutor for the Crime of Aggression, Jessica Kim, will represent the United States at the center, and she will have unfettered access to the substantial body of expertise and resources that the department has amassed in response to Russia's unlawful war of aggression against the people of Ukraine.
The ICC has the jurisdiction to prosecute alleged war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide in Ukraine, but because of legal constraints it does not cover the crime of aggression, launching the unprovoked attack in the first place. Putin's government says it annexed parts of east and south Ukraine in a special military operation to protect Russian speakers and defend its borders from aggressive Western ambitions. Kiev and its Western allies accuse Putin of barbaric tactics and an imperialist-style land grab in Ukraine. Russia denies deliberately attacking civilians or committing war crimes. Ukraine wants crimes of aggression to be heard at a special tribunal, an idea supported by most European Union countries, the United States and the United Kingdom. It is still unclear under what legal basis that court would be created. The exact legal framework for the special tribunal is still under discussion, but according to legal experts, it is expected to target around 24 top government and military officials. Citizens and officials gathered today in the French town of Les-la-Rose after the mayor's family home was attacked on Saturday night. The mayor, Vincent Jeanbrun, led the march along with other right-wing mayors and officials. He later gave a speech denouncing the attack on democracy. Jeanbrun's home was ram-raided and set alight while his wife and children were asleep inside. His wife and one of their 2 children, aged 5 and 7, were injured as they fled the building in the early hours. We have seen the true face of the rioters, that of assassins. Prevented from burning down the town hall, a symbol of the Republic, they redirected their hatred by resorting to a despicable act. They wanted to murder my wife and our 2 young children in their sleep and burn them alive by trying to burn down our house. The mayor from the Conservative Les Républicains party was not at home but at the town hall during the incident. The town hall has been the target of an attack for several nights since the fatal shooting in Nanterre and has been protected with barbed wire and barricades. Like the majority of people who are here, we do not understand why the mayor, as an individual, is attacked and finds his family in complete despair. We don't understand. We have a young mayor who is dynamic, active, who defends our town, and there really is a lot of misunderstanding. We don't see the connection. Of course, the death of the young Nahel is totally inexcusable, unforgivable, but on the other hand, we really don't see the connection, and I think there is a general feeling of a disproportion between what happened and all this. I'm extremely shocked. I work here in Les-les-Roses. I thought it was an extremely calm town with very civilized people, and I am extremely shocked to see that much violence which is completely inexplicable and unexplained. I think the mayor is into dialogue and nobody deserves this. It's unbearable. The youth has no points of reference. They don't know where to go. They don't know what they want. Had their questions been answered, maybe things wouldn't have gone this far. Violence also flared up in the cities of Marseille, Lyon, Pau, Toulouse, Strasbourg and Lille, and Paris, where 17-year-old Nahel M, of Algerian and Moroccan descent, was shot dead on Tuesday in the working-class suburb of Nanterre. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.